Who wants to go first?
I
Brian,
will.
Arthur. Okay.
Oh,
Brian, go
sure.
through. Talk to me, brother.
Like what brought me here?
Yeah.
What landed me here?
Yeah.
Okay. Um, well, I've been on this path, this journey for last 2017. It was really when it really I noticed the mind,
Yeah. Okay. It's a
and I
funny thing that
noticed,
we don't notice it until we notice it. It's weird. Anyway, yeah, go on.
and I still didn't really notice it though. I still didn't really
Yeah.
notice it. I noticed that. I think what I really noticed was the first thing is that I don't have to listen to it.
Mm.
Like something, and it just like it was like a very small recognition, something
That's
I
good.
heard at somebody say on YouTube, and then it just
Yeah.
started from there. And but I still didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what I was
Yeah.
getting into. Um,
Do you now?
uh, uh, no,
I say that in
no,
jest. I say that
no.
in jest. Yeah.
um, I mean, I've just like literally in these last 6 years kind of inundated myself with a lot of Buddhism, listening to different practitioners, teachers
Good.
from, I mean, so many that I can't even, there's so many that I've listened to is it's ridiculous that
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
but everyone that I've heard, I've always taken something from what they've said.
Good. Yeah.
And I've gotten to the point where like I that when I've been meditating, when I got into meditation, um like I've just like touched the surface of the stillness. But when this all happened, I didn't know what it was, and I heard the talk of it, and but I still didn't really know what I was what was going on, what was really
Mm.
happening.
Mm.
It was just trying to find this enlightenment, so to speak, or whatever, the awakening. And
Mm.
even though I've had these glimpses of things that have happened, that I've experienced, that I've recognized externally and internally, I still find myself going back, oh, what, constantly searching. And
Mm.
it got to the point where, like, there's one thing that I just wanted to say is because, like, I got to a point in the beginning when it first started, it was very, very acute. It was very, like, I noticed things so much, but I didn't understand what was happening. So at the same point, I kept questioning it, and even though I felt like I've never felt before, it lasted for like a few months, and then I started to notice, things happening again, of how my emotions and my feelings. Like I noticed one thing is like when I get stressed, I get this feeling in my gut that's very, very. I just know it. I know it, and
Mm.
I know it so much that I've noticed it and recognized it being on this path. That when I wake up in the morning, and when I'm right before I wake up, when I'm in a sleep, a deep sleep, and I notice that feeling coming up in the thoughts starting to come up before I'm going to wake up,
Mm.
and it really it overtakes me, and it always happens right in the morning before I wake up. And
Mm.
and
Mm.
one of the things that I did though when I had this little breakthrough is I remember it going away. I remember waking up and it completely being gone, and I was like, I can't describe how alleviating it was
Mm.
for that to be gone for so long,
Mm.
to be waking up every morning like this.
Mm.
And gradually it's come back, or a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. And then I'm starting to question everything. Like, what the hell am I getting into? What are these people really, is this what I'm hearing? Is it real? Is it true? I mean, I'm going to this circle. And then when I have heard you, I've been listening to you just in the last, I want to say 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I've seen you in the past in years, and I know I've watched you very briefly, but I think when I did that first time, it was just kind of like I just wasn't clicking whatever I heard. So I just kind of overlooked you, and I just landed back into seeing you on YouTube again not that long ago. So I was listening to some of your one-on-ones, and a lot of things was just started to resurface and make more sense for me. I bring out the recognition more. I know that I haven't completely crushed the me in myself, and that's something that I'm recognizing more by listening to you, and I've noticed that it's still there.
Give me 1 sec. Hold that thought. Give me 1 sec, like 10 seconds. Okay. I forgot to plug the power into the laptop. That's all it was. Go on. I got you. Look, I just want to ask you, what is it that the first time that you watched me, you kind of just skipped over. Now you're watching. What is it that's jumping out at you when you're watching my videos? What is it? There's something that brought you here tonight. What is that? Heard something differently, or heard something for the first time, or
I've heard something differently.
Heard something.
I think I heard something differently.
Do you know what that is? Do you know what that is? What that was?
There was a few.
You don't have
things.
to know, but I'm just asking.
Yeah, there was a bunch of things that was resonating with me. Yeah. And
okay. All right. Now, of that bunch of things, do we need to question any of them? Should we go over them? Shall we chat about them? Are you absolutely sure, of those bunch of things that, yes, okay, they've resonated, but like, are there any questions left in relation to any of those bunch of things? Anything? Maybe there may be questions, and there may not be. I'm just poking around. Yeah.
I was thinking before I came here, I was thinking like, what would I, if I talked, what was I going to say, or what was I going to ask you? What kind of question? And I think one of the things was, how do I get back to that feeling I had when I had those glimpses in the beginning, and had that separate detachment of that feeling I have of inside my gut.
Good. All right. Now, you're not going to like the answer.
I'm ready for it, whatever it is.
Because that's okay. All right. So that wants to get back to that wants to get back to having that experience again is the separate me. Now,
I get that.
That experience,
I'm with you. I recognize that.
Good. So whilst there's the wanting of that back, it will never, ever, ever occur again. Now, there's an upside to it though, yeah? The upside to it is that you once experienced, even though you thought it was profound and it was great and you know, you can call it anything you like, yeah. That's coming makes that pale into insignificance. So let it go. Don't want that back. Just remain in a state of being open again, because that's what brought it on the first time. You were open. You're just completely open. Yeah. So go back to just being completely open again. Do not want that back. You'd be ripping yourself off. If you got that back, that's all that ever happened, you'd be ripping yourself off badly. So you have to now be able to let that go. Let it go. It was an experience. Yep. Okay. You experienced something. Good. Fine. Now let it go. And it's now next. Do you understand?
I think so.
Just be open to next. Just be open to next. Whatever the next is, because you don't know yet, right?
Right.
Yeah. Like it kind of it's similar, not the same, but it's similar to what I experienced. And I was in such a state that my motive for being on this path was that I hoped that, you know, when this waking thing or whatever it was, you know, occurred, that I wouldn't feel again. Think about that for a second. I wouldn't feel again. My motive was I did not want to feel again. Imagine the state that I was in to wish that. Not wanting to feel again also means not wanting to feel happiness, joy, laughter. I didn't want to feel anything. I don't want to feel. Full stop. Imagine my surprise when the exact opposite happened, and I feel more now than I ever did. Ever did. Thank God. Because can you imagine being in a state of not feeling? Imagine what that would be like. So why did I bring that up? The reason that I brought that up was, you know, I had no other reference points other than the you know, seeming personal me, the seeming personal me story, the Terry story. That's all I had, that, you know. And I didn't know there could be, I didn't really know what enlightenment was. I didn't know what awakening was. Not really. Sounded good. Satchitananda, being, consciousness, bliss. Bliss sounds great, you know. But fuck, I just didn't want to feel anymore. Certainly glad I did not get that wish. Yeah. So you wanting that experience back is not dissimilar to me wanting to not feel again. You've got to let it go. Yeah. And I would say the same. Anyone else that's listening to this that's not wanting to feel again, for God's sake, let that go. You're not feeling, you're probably dead. Okay. So, you know, that it's a really interesting point, Brian, because there's a lot of people that have realizations, yeah, and they have profound realizations, and because they haven't had realizations before, or the realization that they've just had is the most profound one that they've had so far, yeah, when it fades, they want it back. Not realizing there was just a realization on the way. Just one of them along the way. Yeah. So the trick is, if you can, like, appreciate that experience that you had. Okay, great. Yeah. Next. Now just go back to inquiring again, because, you know, I often refer to this as, this is not a spiritual path. What I'm trying to impart is not spiritual. It's just a fact-finding mission. A truthful fact-finding mission in regards to the seeming personal me. There's either one there or there's not. Because teachers are saying there's not one there. But our experience is, but it feels like there's one here. Now what do I fucking do with that? Yeah. So try not to make the mistake of hoping to arrive in some non-dual place. Yeah. Or coming to an understanding of what non-dual is, and then working on that, like trying to understand what non-duality is, working towards that. That'd be the wrong end of the stick. What you want to be doing is coming to understand what Brian is. Who the fuck's Brian? What's Brian? What animates Brian? What creates Brian? Because Brian changes all the time. 1 minute you're okay, next minute you're not. Brian changes all the time. Is there anything about Brian that does not change? Anything that doesn't change? Because that, whatever that was, you could say, that's Brian. That doesn't change. Everything else changes. 1 minute you're right, the next minute you're not. Do you understand? Yeah. So this is about coming to understand what you're not. And in the process of that, that you are is self-revealing. Reveals itself. All you got to do is work out what you're not. That's all. You can't work out what you are, because the tool that you would be using to work out what you are is a dualistic instrument. Thoughts. How is something that's dualistic going to be able to discover and find and or experience something that's non-dualistic? One without a second. One without 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, just one. Yeah. And I'm not talking about the one compared to 2, or the one compared to 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm just talking about one and only one, and there not being a 2 or a 3 or a 4 or a 5 or an infinite. Just one. One. We believe we're a person. We believe we have free will. We believe we occupy a body. We believe we are the body. We also believe we are conscious, and we believe we are aware, and we believe that we see, hear, taste, touch, and smell. Is that fair? What I just said, Brian?
Yeah.
We believe that, yeah? Fuck,
Yeah,
man, we all
absolutely.
do, right?
Absolutely.
We believe that. Yeah. Now, what are you going to do with information like this? Hey, Brian, I know you think you're the seer, hearer, taster, toucher, and smeller, but you're not. You can't see, hear, taste, touch, or smell, and you are not conscious, and you are not aware. What the fuck are you going to do with that? What are you going to do with that? Because your experience isn't that, is it?
No.
Your experience is I'm conscious. I am aware. I can see, hear, taste, touch, and smell, right? That's the experience. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, right. So there's two things that are happening here. Yeah. There's a story of Brian being created, which only can be created by mind, by thoughts, memory, and recalling memory. Yeah. I was born such and such a year, went to such and such a school, my parents were blah and blah, and my siblings were names were blah, blah, and blah. And yeah, my first girlfriend was blah, first boyfriend was blah, my first job was blah. The big history, yeah, all contained in memory. So it's memory that produces Brian. Yeah, that's why I sometimes use the analogy, like if I could create amnesia in you right now, who would I be speaking to?
I
Who would be
have no
sitting
idea.
there?
I have no clue.
Right, but good, but you wouldn't fall off the chair dead, would you?
No.
Good. You'd be conscious, aware, seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, and smelling. But would it be
Absolutely.
Brian sitting there? Would it be Brian
I don't
sitting there?
know. I don't. Yeah. I would never know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. And that's why it's a pointer. You'd have to imagine it, But there are people that have had accidents and they've experienced amnesia. And most of them, their memory comes back, but some of them, their memory never comes back. And they have to literally create a brand new person again. Brand new. Can you imagine? A brand new. No clue who they were or their friends, parents, no clue who they are. They have to literally start again. Yeah. So there's two things that are happening. You have a mind that's creating an apparent Brian. Yeah. And that's that same mind that says, hi, I am Brian. I'm conscious and aware, and I can see, hear, taste, touch, and smell. Says this. Yeah. Now, when did Brian first come into being? When did Brian first show up? When?
When I was a baby at some point, I guess. When I was my parents have.
When? When? When?
I don't know exactly when. I
I
can't
know
think
you,
back
but
that
like
far.
most of
Yeah.
us, right? Why not?
Probably
Why
because
can't you
haven't
think
had
back that
any.
far?
There was no thoughts. There was no. I had
Good.
nothing
Why
going
wasn't
on
there? Good. Good. Why wasn't there any thoughts?
because I wasn't. I wasn't conditioned.
You hadn't learned language yet. Tell me your thoughts aren't language.
Okay.
Your thoughts are in a language, aren't they? Are they not?
Yes.
Yeah, the first names we start to learn is mum, dad. You might learn Brian, if your parents say it to you often enough. They're the first three labels, first three words that we learn. Brian, okay, mum, dad, yeah. And then the conditioning starts and gets loaded on top of that name, Brian, gets loaded onto that, all the conditioning, yeah. And your me starts to develop from that point, yeah. Now, who were you prior to that? Because you were alive. You were alive. Who were you prior to the Brian conditioning starting? You were definitely there. There's just no recall because recall is in language, is in thoughts. So there's no recall. But you were there. Was Brian there then? No. Who was there? This is the stuff to look at, Brian. This is the stuff to be looking at. Yeah. Like, who am I?
Well, who is there?
Where am
The first thing that comes into my mind is
Yep.
the sperm that created that inseminated the egg, that
Right.
created
Okay.
this whatever.
What was late? Good. Okay, good. And the egg, right? Sperm and the egg, yeah?
Yeah, yeah.
Good. What was latent in the sperm before it even got anywhere near the egg? What was latent in the sperm?
The only thing that comes to my mind is like, well, I'm thinking energy.
Yeah, you could say life too.
Yeah, life energy. Yeah.
Yeah, good. Yeah, life energy. And there was life
Mm,
energy in the egg too, yeah? The egg wasn't
mm,
dead. Has to be a
mm-hmm,
life energy in the egg as well, yeah?
mm.
And then those two life energies come together, yeah? And another life energy is created, the baby. Another life energy comes into being. Now, that life energy in the sperm and that life energy in the egg was connected to who? Your mother and your father. Father was alive, your mother was alive. Sperm is alive, the egg is alive. Those two life forces come together, yeah, and a fetus is created. So then you go, okay, track that back. Now just go back with that. Got your mother, your father, yeah? How did your father come into being? Through the sperm of his dad. Was his dad alive? Yes. It's a life energy or a life force. It just goes back, 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 back. Do you understand? Yeah? Life force or life energy. Life energy is nice. Yeah? Yeah. So most people answer that question, when did Brian come into being, or Sam, or John, or Mary, or Kathy, or whatever? Most people say, when I was born. I go, no, no. What, you came into being when you were born? What about prior to being born? You weren't being, you weren't alive, but everybody naturally goes to, when I was born, that's when I started. No. Now, if we track that back, yeah, and we understand it's a life energy, when did you start? Ponder that just for a second. When did you actually start? Because this life energy that's sitting here now was dependent on the life energy in the sperm and the life energy in the egg of your mother and your father. And your father had to be alive and your mother had to be alive. Life energy. Good. Now, who created your father? Same process that created you. Just happened to be his father and his sperm. So the whole way through, there's not one broken line of life energy. Not one.
Mm.
If there was a broken line, let's say the egg was dead, yeah, and it happened to be in your case, yeah, so your father's sperm was alive, but your mother's egg was dead, you wouldn't be sitting here, my friend. Wouldn't have happened. You wouldn't be sitting here. Yeah. So there can't be a break in that life force energy, no matter how far back you go. Back, 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 back. Yeah. Because the question I was asking was, okay, well, prior to Brian, which is prior to the me, which we've worked out as just conditioning, yeah, which is just thoughts. Yeah. Prior to that, who am I? What hasn't changed? Have you been able to identify anything that has not changed in reference to you, whatever that is, that you? What hasn't changed? Can you find anything that hasn't changed?
Yes.
Good. Okay. Tell me. Yeah.
The awareness. So is it never, yeah, it never changes. It's always stable, or
Good.
it's always there.
Good. 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 Let's just good. Let's just play around with that for a second. Yeah. You've called it awareness. I would call it beingness.
Beingness. That's the other
You're,
thing I was going to
yeah.
ask you.
You're,
There's so many terms for it. I was going to think consciousness,
I know. I
awareness,
know. I know.
energy.
I know. I know, man. I know. You're just going to have to. You're just going to have to wade yourself through all the words and all the labels that get used. There's no other way, because we're using dualistic terminology to undo duality. We're not using dualistic terminology to come to understand that you are. We couldn't do that. Yeah. So anything that we're using dualistically is a concept. It's a word. It's a concept. No matter what we say, whether we call it consciousness, beingness, awareness, intelligence, energy, whatever labels we want to give it, there is only one. But we've got to sift through these words. Yeah. But what happens as you do that, the words start to drop away. They become less and less and less. It's just a process that happens. Yeah. I could help you with that, but yeah. So I can't go there now. Yeah. When you were 10 years old, do you remember being 10, around 10? 11, 12, 8, 7,
Yeah.
anywhere around
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Kind of remember? Okay,
Around
good.
about that. Yeah, those years.
Cool. Right. The beingness that you were experiencing back then, is it any different from the beingness you're experiencing now? Just sit with that for a minute. I'm being specific. I'm using the word beingness. Life, alive, knowing I am beingness. Has it changed? Have you always been the same being, or have you been different beings?
No.
It makes me laugh
So
when I
is
even
this.
hear myself answer. It's the same being.
Yeah.
Can't be fucking different beings. Yeah, it's the same being. Right?
Yeah.
Now, okay. Now, so that's that hasn't changed. Okay, let's park that just for a second. Tell me what has changed.
Um. Everything else.
Yeah, that took the
Everything
words
else.
right out of my mouth. Like
Yeah.
everything else has changed. Yeah.
Yeah.
The body
Mm-hmm.
changes. It seems to age. But yeah, the body change. The story about
Mm-hmm.
Brian changes. The story that you had going on about Brian when you were 7 years old is a very different story that's going on now about Brian, is it not? It's a
Absolutely.
different
Yeah.
story, man. There's a lot more conditioning, apparently more life experiences, blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the story about Brian changes. Just the story about Brian changes. Listen to that. The story about Brian changes. Get the significance of that. It's only the story about Brian that has changed. The beingness, the aliveness, the animated Brian, this that is alive, has never changed. You are. I am. It's not. There was not a time where you were being something else. It was being you. Yeah. Do you know what it's like to be a rat? No. Do you know what it's like to be a tree? No. Do you know what it's like to be you? Yes. You just got to get to the bottom of what I mean when I say you. Am I talking about Brian or am I talking about something else? I'd have to be talking about something else. Yeah. Because Brian is just a story. It's just a story about, are you ready for this? A story. Brian is a story about a story. That's what Brian is. See, there's a story about Brian that manifests as thoughts. Yeah. Your recall and your memory and so on and so forth. Yeah. There's a story about Brian. And then there might be Brian who stumbles into non-duality and then starts unraveling the story about Brian. Yeah. And unbeknownst to Brian, we just got a brand new story being created within the story. Yeah. It's always story within story within story, or thoughts within thoughts within thoughts, or thoughts within mind within mind. Yeah. That's because in the absence, why I say that is in the absence of all thoughts, if all thoughts ceased for you, what would that experience be like?
I I keep referencing to what I was telling you earlier about my experience, that my first initial experience. Oh, it'd be like that.
Yeah.
But it's gonna be like
but
that. That had to be it.
yeah, no, because see, you even need thoughts to be able to identify or even talk about that experience, or even to call that experience a good experience. You still need thoughts. So that's not it. I'm talking about an experience of zero thoughts.
What would it be like? I mean, I don't know. I have no idea. I've never.
Okay,
I guess.
Yeah, fair enough. So let's have a look at it. Yeah. Let's just say you experienced zero thoughts for the next 30 minutes. Just 30 minutes, right? And you're sitting there in your chair, okay? Zero thoughts just happened. Boom, nothing. Yeah. What problem would you have right now? Zero thoughts.
None. There would be.
What problem would you have ever had? What problem would you have ever had in the past? Zero thoughts.
None.
None. What problems are you likely to have into the future with zero thoughts?
I would think none. Nothing.
Good, good. Is there a past with zero thoughts?
I don't see how there could be.
Good. You're dead right. Is there a future without zero thoughts? Or with
No.
zero thoughts, sorry. No.
No.
Is there a good? Is there a Brian with zero thoughts?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Now, how do you know this? How do you know this? Because you know this. How do you know? You could say, I don't know how I know, and that'd be fair enough. But the reality is, you know. You just answered. You already know. Yeah. All we've got to do is unravel this fucking me. Unravel it. That's all we've got to do. And I'm not saying kill it or harm it or kill an ego or try and fucking meditate so as we stop thoughts or no, I'm not talking about any of that shit. None of that. What we want to do is identify what Brian is. That's all. That's not a big ask, I don't think. If that's all we're doing is identifying what Brian is. What, where, who. That's all. Pretty easy, really. We've touched on it a lot already, in the last 40 minutes. So it's more inquiring, Brian, into that you're not. Stop looking for that you are, because I'm telling you now, and any other teacher worth anything will also tell you that you are doesn't need finding. It's not lost. That you are. Yeah. But that you're not, we must come to see what that is. And we can do that using mind, using a dualistic instrument, because that we believe ourselves to be is dualistic. I have a start and one day I'm going to die. I have a finish. There's your duality. Boom. Yeah. Yeah. Or I'm a good person, I'm a bad person. There's your duality. Or, your points in between both those polaric opposites. Yeah. Good, bad. Yeah. I have a location. I start here. A dualistic response as to who or where I am. I'm here. I start here. Where's here? If everything is infinite, everywhere is infinite, how can there be a starting place called here? If everything's infinite, how can there be a starting place that would wipe out infinity? Infinite. Because something that's infinite has no beginning and no end. Has no start or end or start or finish. It's infinite. So if everything's infinite, how can I start here? You with me?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So we're using truth, fact, and honesty with ourselves. Yeah. We want to know, Brian, what's actually happening as opposed to what we think is happening. Like a moment ago when I took you through that process, okay, no thoughts for 30 minutes, zero. Yeah. What problem would you have? None. Because a problem only arises as a thought. In the absence of a thought, there's no problem.
Right.
Holy shit. Yeah. That's why when you're feeling great, your thoughts are saying everything's great. The thoughts are saying that. Yeah. When you're feeling shit, thoughts are saying, I feel shit, I feel depressed. Says this. Then we take that on. That's funny. Yeah. Yeah. Good. I'm glad you're doing the exploring that you're doing. It's good. Yeah. Just understand that the most profound thing that you can discover on any spiritual path is who you're not.
Mm.
Yeah. There's 8 billion people on the planet at the moment, all walking around believing they're an individual personality with free will. They are the thinker, the mover, and the shaker, and they're in absolute control of their individual life. 8 billion, Neil. Holy shit. You know, and there's just all that happens, man, is there's just an agreed upon reality. We all agree on a particular reality. And even that will depend on what culture you're born into. Yeah. The realities can be very different according to the different cultures that there are out there. Yeah. But you get born into an American culture and there's an agreed upon reality. You know, it's just agreed upon. Yeah. Mm. Keep looking. Remember, there's an assumption that there's a personal self here. It's an assumption. Yeah. We've never been encouraged to look to see whether the assumption is actually true. We've never been encouraged to look until now. Look, start looking. Yeah. I'll finish with you with this, yeah. You could have probably told me a little bit about non-duality. You could have probably told me a bit, just from the little bit of, you know, watching and reading and stuff that you've done. But how much could you have told me about duality? Really? We're all on this non-dual path, yeah, wanting to find out about non-duality. None of us have got a fucking clue what duality is. What is it? What is it? What's duality? You think don't you think it's funny, right? We're on this non-dual path trying to discover what non-duality is. None of us have got a fucking clue about what duality is. What the fuck? Like, now, I'll finish with this because I want to get to Arthur. The only thing that creates, listen to my words, seeming duality is thoughts. We did it before. In the absence of a thought, is there a past? And you went, no. In the absence of a thought, is there a future? And you went, no. I asked you, how did you know that? Because you're right. You're right. What creates the duality is thoughts only. They work. You got 6 senses: seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, thinking. The 6th sense, the thinking sense, is what creates the seeming duality. Dual. Because in the absence of it, non-dual. Non-dual in the absence of it. Now, don't get me wrong. Some people go, oh, okay, so what I've got to do is I've got to learn to not think. You fucking good luck with that. That's not possible. Why? Because you're not the thinker. The thoughts just happen. Try and stop thinking. You know, I spent time with somebody yesterday, 20 years meditating, 20 years meditating, yeah, trying to stop thoughts. turn up on my doorstep, beaten and, I've been trying for 20, I just can't. I haven't been able to do it. And I said, you came to me 20 years ago, I would have told you not to do that 20 years ago, because you can't do that. Can't do that. Like, thoughts happen just like your heartbeat happens. They just happen, thoughts. And that's really easy to discover. Most people believe they're the thinker. Really? Okay, good. If you're the thinker, stop it. Makes perfect sense. If you're the thinker, then stop it. For fuck's sake. And you discover, Brian, you can't. You discover you can't. Yeah. So there's a reality that's just constantly kind of happening with mind, with thoughts. And in there is the world that you know, the world that you know. You remember the agreed upon reality. And also what gets created in there is a Brian that's in there as well. All created by thoughts. How fucking amazing is that? How amazing is that? Yeah? How amazing. Now, the Brian, I know I keep saying I'm going to finish. Sorry, Arthur, I'll be with you, man. The character Brian that keeps being created by thoughts, that character is not conscious. It's not a being. It's not even alive. It's just thoughts, like an animated cartoon character. Literally, like an animated cartoon character. The animated cartoon character, we all know it doesn't have a heartbeat. It's not alive. Yeah? Imagine I'm trying to speak to this animated Daffy Duck character, and I'm trying to convince Daffy Duck he's not real. And he's saying, what are you talking about? I've got a beak, I've got arms, I've got legs, I'm speaking to you. And then I say to Daffy Duck, Daffy, you're not even the speaker. You're being spoken. Because we know that, right? The Daffy Duck is a human being that's taking on the Daffy Duck's voice, right? You're being spoken. Huh? Don't be an idiot. Of course I'm the speaker. Look, my beak's moving. And that's what it's like, trying to convince a me they're not real. Even just like we believe we are the thinker, we also believe we are the speaker. The words coming out of our mouth. I'm responsible for what I say. Really? Try saying nothing. Try saying nothing. Or if you're responsible for what comes out of your mouth, yeah, be the most responsible person ever to exist on the planet with your word from this point forward, because you're the speaker. So you should be able to do that. And I'm assuming you'd want to be the most responsible human being to ever be on the, so just start doing that. What's the problem? Do it. If you're the thinker, stop it. Easy, easy. So there's all these things, there's these assumptions, and the thinking, the non-thinking all falls under the thing of free will. Of course I have free will, really. But everything you do and say is all based on thoughts. And you're not the thinker. Now where's the free will? Try and grasp that, Brian. Our life, what we do, who we believe we are, who we believe our friends are, our parents are, and our place in the world, is all based on thoughts that just happen. See, if you indeed could stop thoughts or could alter thoughts, or then I would say, yeah, you'd have free will. Because you're changing shit, man. You're changing. Why is it so difficult for human beings to change when all we've got to do is change the thoughts? Why is it so difficult? After all, I'm the thinker, so I should be able to change my thoughts easily and just become a brand new person. Why can't we do that? Why do we end up sitting with psychologists and therapists for 10, 20 years trying to work through this shit? I don't know if that's helped. I hope it's helped. Yeah. It's just, I'm trying to give you some insights into what's actually happening as opposed to what we think is happening. Yeah. Always come back to what's actually happening. Always come back to that. What's actually happening. See how you go. You okay?
Yeah, that's, I appreciate, I really appreciate everything
Good.
you've said.
Yeah. Good. Just sit with it. Yeah.